Good afternoon, Christoph, and good afternoon, Luke.
Hi Dan, hi Luke.
Good afternoon.
All right.
So this is such a pleasure to meet you, Luke.
It's, thank you for the opportunity.
The reason is you are now doing something I think Christoph has dreamed to do when he is young. Well, when he was young.
Yeah, but that's not the topic today. What I wanted to do when I was young, right?
The thing is interesting. You've now developing yourself into hopefully a professional football player, which I suppose Christoph, you really were interested in being a professional footballer.
Yeah, but I was
but
never.
now you become a professor.
I was never close enough to have serious dreams about it. So anyway.
Yeah. So surely today, what we're trying to understand is what have inspired you, and why would you want to become a footballer? But I like Christoph.
Yeah.
You can take the.
So
the
maybe
lead.
I can say to our audience just a few words.
Yes. Yes.
So I'm very delighted to welcome Luke, whose dad is Ukrainian, his mom is American, who has grown up in America, in Spain and in the UK, and is now next year doing his last year in high school here in Cambridge.
Yeah.
So, that already sounds like a pretty interesting background.
Yeah.
But before we talk about your professional football career, can you say something about, why are you putting so much effort into sports? What makes it worthwhile to be a sportsman?
Well, doing something like football is really difficult. It takes, you can't fake it. It's something where when you play and you're on the pitch, no matter who you are or who you were, where you came from, during those 90 minutes, anything could happen. And I think that's beautiful, and that's something that, I want to dedicate my life to, because a lot of people might get inspired by something like that. And, there might be some professions where you could say that if you have money or, you have some sort of credentials, you could, climb your way to the top and not, kind of lie about who you are and, what you do. But in football, the ball does all the talking, and your actions on the pitch does all the talking. And, I think that's just a beautiful thing. And when you see really talented players play, it just motivates you to want to work harder. And I guess naturally, through watching older guys play and how well they play, and it makes you want to play better. And it's just a natural chain of events to want to play better and hopefully someday play at the highest level. So.
Okay, wow.
Serious training, so very serious.
Yeah.
You're training disciplinary training, not just for fun.
Yeah.
Which age was that?
Probably when I was 12.
12.
Yeah, 12
so
or
that's
11.
6 years ago.
Yeah, it was 7
6
years ago, yeah.
Okay.
So I'd say around then is when I was playing at least 5 to 6 times a week, or
Yeah.
So.
And at what point did you decide, I want to become a professional? Many people play football, right? And a good part of them are actually pretty good at it. But that's still different from saying, I want to become a professional. What made you decide that?
When I was 14, I was living, I'd moved to London, and I was, playing on various teams, and I was trying my luck with different places. And I feel like 14 to 15 is really that magic age when you're starting to grow into your adult self and into your adult body, and your mind is starting to develop and you're starting to mature. And that's really, I think, the point when I started to think like, hey, this is for me. I'm enjoying this. I love doing it. Every single time I'm on the pitch, I'm smiling, and that counts for something. I want to be doing something that I genuinely enjoy, where every single time I'm out there competing, whether my team's winning or my team's losing, I'm enjoying it, and I'm loving, loving the work that I'm putting into it. So that's probably, I'd say, the age when I was, really serious, when I knew I wanted to make this something serious.
And you spent 2 years in Spain.
3.
3 years in Spain.
Yeah.
Training with a high level development.
So for the first 2 years, I was sort of in a boarding situation in the north of Spain in a town called Huesca, and I was playing on a team there where it was taken very seriously, and they would bring players from all over the world, from China to the States, obviously, to even Ghana and Africa, and Sweden. There were a few players, so there was players from all over the world that would come to this team
and live there and
go to school,
Mm-hmm.
learn the language, everything, learn the culture, and obviously play the game. And I think that's when that 15 to 16 age was when I was really getting into training, rigorously and playing at a high level. And then the next year I went to a team in Madrid. So when I was 17, I went and played on a team in Madrid, and that team would compete against some of the best teams in Spain at the academy level. So
You've been America, Spain, now coming to the UK. Has the life changed slightly in the UK? The way what you do daily now in the UK, is it similar to what you do in Spain?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say I probably have, well, this year has been sort of an exception, I feel, with COVID, but my day is pretty, it's remained similar through the different places I've lived, and I think really what would change most would just be the way that the culture would work. In Spain they have the siesta during the day, so obviously that'll affect your
Yes.
your
What
your
time
schedule.
is the little sleep?
I'd say it's from like 4 to 6, from
Okay.
3 to 6ish maybe.
UK they don't.
But UK they don't do that, But then again, the Spaniards, they eat dinner a lot later
Yes,
than they
that's
do, in the UK.
So you are now entering your last year of high school. So how do you combine? Is there any trade-off? How do you put together getting an education and and working with the Norwich development team?
Yeah.
So you have a Norwich shirt on, right? How do you combine this?
Yeah. I mean, there's always going to be some sort of a sacrifice, and you're going to have to make that sacrifice if you really want to pursue something. And there are only 24 hours in the day, and you really, I feel, have to make the most of those hours and make sure that you're not allowing yourself to deviate from your schedule. And I've made this mistake certainly when I was younger, where I would sort of wake up a little bit later than I should, and then maybe I will miss a training, and then I'll be like, oh, I'll be fine. And then the next day in the team training, I'm not as good, and it's just sort of dominoes. And I feel, it's like a sequence of dominoes. And if you make one mistake, it'll lead to another mistake, and it takes a lot of willpower to be able to, stop that domino. The more dominoes that get pushed over, the harder it is to stop it. And so that's kind of how I think of schedule. It's like, I need to make sure that every single day I'm on it, and I'm making sure that I'm, not deviating off of schedule.
So both school schedule and training schedule.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
that's the only answer I could tell you. It's just hard work and making sure that you show up and you don't get lazy.
And what do you think? How is this going to continue when you have done high school? How do you think you will continue to develop your professional football career? And will you then stop education, or will you continue education, or how are you thinking about that?
Well, I value education, and I think that education is obviously very, very important, and I would not want to be sacrificing something as great as education. And I think, the best way to be able to really balance those two would be in a system where education and playing sports at a high level are combined, and it's done for you. And I think from what I've seen, I think I'd probably want to lean towards being a student athlete in like some sort of a program in the States. I think that they've got it. They have just a lot of resources there, and they can just make they can give you a schedule and you can follow it. And I feel like I've been following schedules for my whole life, so
Okay.
I'd probably be wanting to.
So you will continue to not give up your education, and become a professional footballer.
Yeah.
So here I tell you a little story. Dan has, made the point that I'm really a failed footballer. But at some point when I was playing on a veterans team, I was on my team was a former French national team player, Philippe Mahut, who had played in 1902 in the game for third place in the World Cup. And I took him home after a game in the car, and we were talking about careers. And he said to me, he stopped going to school at 16 because at his age, he was 10 years older than me. You couldn't do both. You had to choose. If you wanted to become a good enough footballer, he said, in his generation, you had to choose. And now obviously he did very well, but you seem to have the option that you can really carry both forward. That's really exciting.
Yeah, I mean, I'm blessed to be able to have that option, and I think that he's completely correct in what he said. But he achieved becoming a professional athlete. He will have done that much quicker than what I'm planning. My plan is sort of a longer path and probably a more circuitous path. But it's just because, I value education to the point where I wouldn't want to just completely neglect that. And even though it might give me more time to, develop myself and pursue opportunities, away from school, I just think that sacrifice, you play football for, if you're lucky, 5 years, and when you're a professional, maybe more, maybe less, you could get injured, anything could happen. And I feel like afterwards, you still have so much life left, and I don't want to, I don't want to.
Yeah, that's very wise. Yeah.
Are you still taking A-levels exam?
IB. I'm doing
IB.
IB.
You're doing IB.
Yeah.
So you're still going to a university?
Yep.
Have you thought about which one you might think to go?
I'm not sure yet.
You're not sure?
We're starting the process of contacting schools, contacting coaches, but
So you will apply to universities in the United States.
Well, for athletes, it's a little bit different. So we don't contact. So an athlete, you might send an email or send some video clips to coaches, but it's really on them to contact you to say, okay, we're interested. We want to, see you further. So I've been sort of in the primal stages of contacting coaches.
Okay.
And then later on this summer, I might attend some camps. Like,
what kind of university is this? Is that all the university does it, or there's
no, I mean, I would want to be playing, at like the highest level in university, which would be Division 1.
Okay.
And, I'd also, within Division 1, there are a lot of teams, and I'd want to be playing at, at one of the best, both academically.
Give us some names of really good universities that have a Division 1 team.
UVA, UNC Chapel Hill, Stanford, these sorts of teams.
But when you apply, do you still need to choose a subject?
Yeah, you'll have to major, of course.
You have to major. What kind of major have you thought about?
I haven't, but I'd probably say economics or business, leaning in that direction.
But what proportion of training you do, and what proportion of academic you do a day, roughly?
You mean hours-wise?
Yeah, hours-wise.
I mean, my training, obviously I have my team, and then I like to do things apart from my team trainings and games. So I'd say on a day where I have team training, we'd be practicing, we'd have an intense session for an hour and a half, 90 minutes, and then I might go to the gym for an hour or two later on, or I might go for a run. So I'd say within the day, I may be spending 2 to 3 hours on, my football and physical endeavors, and then, I just recently had mock exams, so during really intense academic times, I might cut into that time a little bit and push it more into 2 or 3 hours of academic time. So, it really depends on. I'd say it fluctuates throughout the year.
Right.
So.
But you definitely dedicated it 2 or 3 hours a day on the physical training.
Yeah.
That's very good. I mean, a lot of friends would do piano or violin for 6 hour a day. I just don't know how they achieve this by doing a
I feel like there is a
subject.
point where you could do too much as well.
Yeah.
Because
when you were young, how long do you train? I mean, when you meet this French guy, how long does he train a day? Do you think, as a professional?
I don't know.
Well, for goodness sake, I mean, as a fund manager, right? You need to quantify your time? You guys just never, what?
Well, that's the difference when you talk to a hopeless amateur and to somebody who has serious intentions, right? So I cannot tell you how much I trained. Certainly much
I'm
less.
very interested in
Certainly much less than that.
Imagine
You like the
time.
numbers.
Yeah, because whenever people telling me they are committed, I always want to see, how much you're committed. Because time is, you can argue, is the only
Yeah.
resource you have, right?
You see, fund managers, they can only view everything through one
Yeah,
lens.
but
right?
I feel like if you're saying, oh yeah, I train 8 hours, but then in those 8 hours you have like 5 hours of rest period, like I
Yeah.
don't, or like
I agree.
You're on your phone for 5
I
hours.
agree.
I just feel
you,
like
you can't train 8 hours per day intensively
can't.
because
I
you
think
would break your
efficient
body
and
down.
Exactly.
effectiveness. I
Exactly.
agree. I
And
agree.
in my opinion, 1 hour or an hour and a half of really intense, training is much better than 3 hours, because if you think about it, the game is 90 minutes, 45 two halves of 45 minutes at a very intense pace. And that's how you should practice as well. You shouldn't practice the sport as if it was like 3 halves of 60 minutes. You should be practicing the way it is, which is a 90-minute game.
The thing for me, I always want to ask whoever is in the profession. So when you play for 90 minutes, which is really charming, and when you watch TV for other people play for 90 minutes, what's the difference? Do you have any difference in your mind? Do you like to watch a good game or play a good game? Which give you more satisfaction?
Oh, I mean, for me, easily, I love to play the game more than I love to watch it. But obviously, I watch the game a lot too to learn, and I have different players that I like to watch to learn different things from, and that's.
Any of your top players?
I mean, the way that I watch players that play a similar position and have a similar physique to mine. So, like, similar height, because a player like me, I shouldn't be watching like a 6'5", 220-pound like striker or something, because that's just not my style, and what he does is not something that I would be able to bring to the
So
table.
you've been watching Iniesta?
I would be. That's a perfect example. Or, a player I really like is a player who plays in the French league. His name is Awad, and he's just, really talented. He has like my exact dimensions, and the way he plays is great. And I really like to learn from him. And
I saw some of your clip. I think you plan ahead as well, which is quite amazing. The way you observe passing the ball, I really like that. Coming to a financial question again. It's my profession, right? So so far, what do you think the cost for you to
meaning
become
opportunity cost?
no
What I've given.
the financial cost? So as when you started, you say 7 years ago. What kind of special? Is there any special training you go beyond your tuition
definitely. I
fee?
mean,
How much do you think your parents spend on that?
a lot of money.
Have you got a figure?
I'd be afraid. I'd be afraid to give a figure. I mean, we'd probably be speaking 6 figures.
Right.
6 possibly. I mean.
So
6
this
or
is
5.
not for everyone, I suppose.
It's not, and I'm again. I'm just so incredibly blessed to have the parents and the situation that I have. And a lot of kids would not have that, and a lot of I'm also an only child, and my circumstances were such that I was able to pursue this and to really see how far I could go with it, and I'm that alone motivates me more than anything to want to make them proud and work hard and make sure that I can someday hopefully put something on the table and reward pay them back in some way. But
to see you, I mean, seriously, just sitting here, this is the first time we talk. Just to see your passion and the kind of discipline. I wish I knew something I would like to do when your age. I still haven't figured out what I want to do probably for the next 10 years, but this is very interesting to hear. As a teenager, of what you like to do and your plan. So, for me, the final, if I may, the last question I want to ask, it's always in my mind, is, so all the way now from a young boy to a football career, and you think you're going to go to the university, any time in your mind that you think this was difficult for me, and I might give it up.
So, I mean, that definitely. I mean, there.
But what kept you?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I've had a lot of moments where, you know, I would have a stern look in the mirror, and you know, after a hard game or you know, a performance where I didn't perform particularly well, I'd sit there and I would really have a hard think about, like, do I really want to be doing this? And you know, I think again, you know, I'll go back to my family, like. They're the ones that have been there for me, and they're the ones that have motivated me to keep going and to keep pursuing my passion and my dream. And you know, if it's something that you really love doing, then there really is no question in your mind of, is this for me? You already know it's for you. It's just a matter of how much you're willing to give up in order to, you know, make that dream a reality. You know. And I'm still working on it, so we'll
Fantastic,
see.
fantastic.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think it's very inspiring, you know, what you want to do. And, you know, maybe we will, in a couple of years, hear about you as an outstanding player at a college team in the United
Love to
States.
see one of your games at some point. Right?
Yeah, well, definitely.
Yeah,
I hope we can work that out. You know, that'd be great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for the opportunity.
All right.
It's been great.
Thanks. Great.